This morning, we're going to begin with a look into the allegations, into the inner workings of the Church of Scientology. They come in a new book. It's called A Billion Years. Mike Rinder details the decades he spent as a high-ranking Scientology member. The book is published by an imprint of Simon & Schuster. That's a division of our parent company, Paramount Global. In a wide-ranging interview, Rinder told chief investigative correspondent Jim Axelrod about his experience as a high-up official in the organization. Jim also spoke to a Scientology representative who disputes many of Rinder's claims and calls him an unreliable source and a, quote, inveterate liar. Jim, good morning.
Good morning. Founded in the early 1950s with a remarkable origin story involving galactic warlords, rocket ships, and 75-million-year-old volcanoes, Scientology, say church leaders, is a belief system designed to foster spiritual enlightenment. Mike Rinder grew up in the church, but he told me he went from wanting to save the world with Scientology to wanting to save the world from Scientology.
Mike, how you doing?
Mike Rinder is no fan of Scientology.
Please welcome Mr. Mike Rinder.
Which is remarkable since he spent 46 years of his life in the church, rising to a high-ranking position.
I told a lot of lies when I was the spokesperson for Scientology.
His memoir, A Billion Years, describes an organization built on the teachings of one man, Scientology's founder, L. Ron Hubbard.
We believe that L. Ron Hubbard had the answers to everything about life.
And L. Ron Hubbard based his general view of how to fix all problems facing mankind. What did he ground it in?
Hubbard, who'd been a science fiction writer, recorded 3,000 lectures on how to handle every conceivable challenge a Scientologist could face, which he blended with some outrageous claims.
L. Ron Hubbard says, for instance, smoking doesn't cause cancer.
Yeah.
Not smoking enough causes cancer.
Right. But that sort of insanity is also indicative of just how powerful the grip on people's minds is.
Scientology's journey to spiritual enlightenment is done through a series of courses that Rinder says cost money, a lot of money.
$300,000, $500,000, that's for you to pay for your own participation in Scientology. This is why I said it's a business masquerading as a religion.
Does it cost $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to reach spiritual enlightenment?
No, absolutely not.
For more than 3 decades, Monique Yingling, who emphasized that she's a practicing Catholic, has been a lawyer for the church.
The total contributions that you would be asked for if you did every single course on the training route would be less than $50,000, closer to 20 or 30 or something like that.
I can assure you, we are not what you expect.
In 1987, David Miscavige took over as leader of the church following Hubbard's death. Rinder left the church 20 years later after he says he was punished by Miscavige following a news account critical of Scientology. Rinder says Miscavige sent him to The Hole, a detention center on the grounds of Scientology's headquarters in Southern California.
It consisted of 2 double-wide trailers that had been put on foundations and connected. And it was...
How many people might be in the hole at one time?
Well, I counted at one point that there was 130.
130 in 2 double wides?
Yes. And the doors were barred. There was bathrooms but no showers. The sleeping arrangements were on the floor.
There's no such thing as the hole.
It is a startling, if not stunning, description. Why would he lie about this?
Because it's salacious, and what draws the media's attention is throwing in all these salacious details.
That are always categorically untrue.
Not always categorically untrue. I'm not saying that. And I think there's always a grain of truth to everything myself.
So as someone who's been around the church for 35 years, what's the grain of truth here?
The grain of truth is that the church does have a system of internal discipline when that individuals, for the most part, individuals volunteer for it. And they say they're just very grateful that they had the opportunity, first of all, to redeem themselves and to study more fully the scriptures of Scientology.
Rinder says leaving the church was one thing, but untangling himself from a lifetime following Scientology's belief system was much more difficult.
You leave in 2007, but you still hold on to the teachings. When did you finally reach a point where you're like, oh my goodness, what was I in the grips of?
It took about 6 years.
6 years to what?
To come to that conclusion that, no, this is a load of crap. It's very difficult to accept the fact that you have been so stupid.
I don't think that you can take Mike Rinder at his word when he's answered your questions in the interview.
One thing Mike Rinder and Monique Yingling do agree on, the Church of Scientology's vast wealth.
When I left in 2007, I knew that between the two major arms of Scientology that accumulated about $2 billion in money and assets. That has increased a lot since then.
What's the church worth?
I can't give you a dollar figure, but as I said a bit earlier, the church does have very generous parishioners.
Well, hang on. You can't give me a dollar figure, but you're one of the lead attorneys in dealing with all the tax issues. You must have a sense of the net worth of the Church of Scientology.
Well, the church does have considerable assets, but the real question is...
Millions, hundreds of millions, billions?
Well, the real question is what does the church use its assets for? And it uses its assets to forward its religious and charitable mission.
Am I accurate in describing the assets of the church in billions?
Probably, yes.
All of that, money raised from its millions of members, real estate in prime locations, is tax-free, as the IRS granted Scientology the same tax-exempt status as other major religions in 1993.
People are watching Mike Rinder. What do you want people to know who are watching him share his view of what he says his experience was?
I think your listeners need to know that he is paid for attacking the church, that this is money motivated. Mike Rinder's only source of income for the last 15 years or so has been based on his being a critic of the church.
Rinder denies those claims, telling CBS News, "My criticism of Scientology is driven solely by my desire to end the rampant ongoing abuses within the organization. It is Scientology that is obsessed with making money."
You know people are going to watch this and be like, hang on a second. This guy was the spokesman for the Church of Scientology. You admitted to me in the interviews you told a lot of lies, so why are we supposed to believe what you're telling us about Scientology now?
I can't convince you one way or the other whether I am lying now or then or both. You just got to sort of look at me and go, is there a reason for him to lie now? There is no reason for me to lie now. The only thing that I am trying to accomplish is stop people from getting abused by Scientology.
Today, Rinder lives in Florida, not so far from Scientology's spiritual headquarters in Clearwater. When Rinder left Scientology, he left behind a wife and 2 children.
Wow.
This book, he says, is dedicated to his kids who he hopes will one day leave the organization. In response to the book, Rinder's children wrote an open letter to Rinder, calling the memoir self-serving. They wrote, quote, "You were not our father. Stop telling lies about us, your family, our friends, and our beliefs."
Whoa.
Doesn't sound
it's
like
a lot
any,
to unpack.
Yeah, not a reconciliation imminent by any means.
Had to be very painful, though, to hear those words coming from your own children.
It was, and he says, look, all I can do is make the invitation. He makes it clear in the book that he is hoping to leave the door open, but clearly from the response, that door is going to remain closed for quite a while.
So what's he doing now?
So he lives actually not too far from the church headquarters. He has another wife and a new family. She, too, is a former Scientologist.
Wow. Really powerful interview, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well done.
Thank you, sir.